What we have to understand is Trump illusion versus reality on the ground. And maybe that's generous to call it Trump illusion. It's Trump misrepresentation. It's Trump, as he almost always does, portraying the world the way he has decided it should be.
I'm Joanna Coles, Chief Content Officer of The Daily Beast, and you are watching or listening to The Daily Beast podcast. Yesterday, I was shocked by hearing Donald Trump say to a group of reporters on the White House lawn that Iran and Israel had been bombing each other so long they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. I don't know, it still felt shocking to hear a president drop the F-bomb, even with everything Donald Trump has done. So who better to unpack it with again but Michael Wolff, who's also going to talk about the intelligence that's been leaked and the now two very different narratives of what's happened. Did we actually obliterate Iran's nuclear capabilities, or did we just kick the can down the road? Let's get into it. Michael's written 4 books on Donald Trump. He talks to people in the West Wing every day, so we have no time to waste. Michael, it's so exciting to have you here in the office. So much to discuss. And I know we dropped an emergency podcast on this yesterday, but I am still surprised that one can be shocked by Donald Trump. And yet I was shocked by hearing him say they don't know what the fuck they're doing to a group of press. Just felt very unpresidential, even from someone who feels consistently unpresidential.
Yeah, I think you're a little...
Am I overreacting?
Well, yeah.
I know there are more important things going on, but...
I found that perfectly in character. To expect anything else seems super
naive,
foolish,
hopeful, optimistic.
I think what we saw there, I think he's potential. He was angry at that moment that this was coming undone. Mm-hmm. He had staged this. It was absolutely to his specifications. And I think we spoke yesterday, and I had picked up some of the conversations that he was having with the various people, the many people he has constant phone calls with, constantly the same phone call, repeating himself endlessly. And the day before, sort of Friday into Saturday, he was going on at some length, repeating himself about how this had to be perfect. It had to be really on script. And he said, and this was a good one, in, boom, out. And I think that's how he saw this. And he said to people, I want a perfect war. And, in some sense, he's responding to the whole MAGA thing about endless wars and not knowing what we get into these things, we don't know what we're doing. And our goals are not clear. So in a sense, this was a modern way, you could say, of looking at how wars should be fought rather than how they should not be fought. But of course, this was not he was not really thinking strategically. He was thinking showbiz. That he was going to produce these great headlines.
And he was thinking also about how does this play on television, which is where the majority of people will see it. And of course, when it's cut up in clips and put on social media, because he's always thinking about the audience.
Right. And he's always thinking about the bragging rights. So the bragging rights are going to be, I decided to do this. It was the right decision. I won the war. The war is over. Everything is great. Problem solved. Now, what we saw yesterday with him with the F-bomb was, the fact that this truce that he claimed he put in place, he was the peacemaker, war maker, peacemaker, was coming apart. And so he was pissed.
Right. So the ceasefire that he declared was going to happen didn't even get off the ground. And then his word was obliterated when he came out and talked to people, followed by the three backup dancers, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance, that the Iranian nuclear capabilities had been obliterated.
Well, I think that was the F-bomb happened before that. The F-bomb, he said, yes, you're right. He said they had been obliterated, but the F-bomb was really about Israel continuing to attack Iran after the ceasefire.
Right, because he said the Iranians and the Israelis have been at this so long, they've been bombing each other for so long, they don't know what the fuck they are doing.
Right.
But he's since annoyed because he said that the facilities have been obliterated, and now it appears as...
Well, that's today's. We haven't heard an F-bomb yet, but believe me, in private, there are many, many, many F-bombs going off. So the leak of this intelligence, and the intelligence is devastating. I mean, the intelligence basically says that this was all for nothing, that it changes, it accomplishes nothing, and it changes nothing. That the Iranians are, instead of a few weeks away from being able to assemble a working nuclear device, are a few weeks plus. So this contradicts the entire narrative that he's tried to establish here.
Okay, and to be fair, the general who gave the press conference with Pete Hegseth on Sunday, after Pete Hegseth repeated Trump's words that we have obliterated their nuclear capabilities, said, well, wait a minute, it's a little too early to tell, we don't know yet. Then we have this, as you say, devastating leak saying that actually this hasn't worked at all. All they've done is block the entrance to the facilities. It's under a pile of rubble. We have no idea if they've moved the enriched uranium. Right. And it looks like they're perfectly capable of creating a nuclear bomb. They've just pushed it down the road a few months. Right.
And I mean, what we have to understand is Trump illusion versus reality on the ground. And maybe that's generous to call it Trump illusion. It's Trump misrepresentation. It's Trump, as he almost always does, portraying the world the way he has decided it should be.
So do we know where the leak came from?
Well, that's the other thing. Okay, so, I mean, what's going to happen now is Trump is not going to say, "Oh yeah, well, this is a problem. We have to figure this out. How to continue this campaign if we truly want to end the Iranian nuclear ambition. This is what we have to do." He's not going to do that. He's going to instead blame someone for the fact that this alternative and probably correct version of reality is now in the public. The public now can judge for itself. Trump reality, actual reality.
Well, and where did the leak, did it come out on CNN first? I mean, CNN, New York Times had it first. He'd obviously also went after the press very heavily just before he dropped the F-bomb, saying, CNN is they're gutless losers, the journalists there. He has to watch them because there's nothing else to watch. It's all fake news. I don't know why he would watch it if it is fake news, but is he suggesting here that this is just a sort of a press illusion, or do they think that there is someone in the intelligence community who's leaking?
Well, he was suggesting that this was a press illusion,
conspiracy against him.
Yes, or disinformation. That was before the leak actually came out. So the leak, we really should focus on what that is telling us, on how important it is. It is, as so often happens in government, the bureaucracy rebelling against against politicians.
So it's the deep state.
Well, it's what he would call the deep state, right. And I would call it the bureaucracy. It's people who do this, people whose job is to actually know what's going on, to actually manage the details. And And I think this was so extreme within the bureaucracy. We've obliterated this. We've solved the problem in...
all other presidents
yes.
are dumb. I mean, J.D. Vance saying all the previous presidents were dumb for not having done this.
And then...
That must have irritated people in the administration. I mean, people, the civil servants.
Right. And so this was somebody or a larger, the bureaucracy calling this out. No, this is the reality. This is what we actually see on the ground. Now, the question is who? And that's what's going on right now. There is an investigation that is going on. They will try to find someone to blame. Within the White House, within the West Wing, what they are saying as of this morning, who this is being pinned on is Tulsi,
the head of national intelligence.
Yes. Now, whether that is true or not, I have no idea, and it may very well be that the people that I've been speaking to within the West Wing have no idea. But that is, blame. Remember, blame doesn't actually have to be someone did anything. It's who you want to blame.
Well, you said on Sunday that Tulsi Gabbard was toast, that she had come out earlier, as we know, and said, actually, the Iranians don't have this capability. Donald Trump then reprimanded her and completely contradicted her, undermining her in public. She then rolled back and said, oh, actually, they will have the capability in a few months.
Right. So it's always important in the Trump script. The fallback is always who to blame, who to blame. You just have to have someone to blame. Tulsi is in the line of fire. So she's the useful stooge at this point.
Well, and one can only imagine, to your point, that you have said repeatedly on this podcast, that all the people around Trump, largely men, hate him and they hate each other. So you've got this sense of heightened conspiracy, and you must be thinking, or one must be thinking, that Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance are terrified the blame is going to fall on them.
Absolutely. I mean, that's this. Yes. So, I mean, what you're saying, is the other thing is everyone is trying to blame someone else so that they themselves are not blamed.
And you made the point that Pete Hegseth was reamed out by Trump after the parade, which happened only a week before the bombing. I mean, it's so extraordinary because the parade was such a big story when it was happening. And of course, there were the No Kings protests, 6 million people across the country. And Pete Hegseth got reamed out for the parade, which felt too friendly. Soldiers were waving at people. They were running out of formation. It all felt like a benign army. And as you said, the army is modern now. It's very conscious of its HR and PR departments. And that was not what Trump wanted. Trump wanted something menacing, reminiscent of the 60s.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he wanted a dictator's kind of parade. But the reaming out thing is important because everybody gets reamed out. I mean, everybody gets reamed out, literally, everybody. And it's frightening. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible experience. I mean, I have known people, a number of people within the immediate Trump circle who have been reamed out, and then they've spoken to me shortly thereafter. And it's pathetic. You
mean it's pathetic how upset they are by having been reamed out by Donald Trump?
No, I mean it's pathetic what they have to endure here. These are grown-ups. These are people who have of some accomplishment. They are at some level. They may not be the A+ professionals, but they're still in there, and they've had long careers. Perhaps not that distinguished, but at least, and here they are, cold on the carpet, treated like children, treated like dogs, really.
And does Donald Trump recover very quickly when he's had an outburst like that? Because I've certainly come across people. I'm thinking of certain members of the British royal family, actually, who let loose on people who have appalling tempers because in their position. They're actually born to it, so you can't get them out of their jobs. And then what you hear is that they download on people and then recover very quickly within 30 seconds.
Donald Trump is both. He can be distracted. He can stew,
and he can hold a grudge. We know he can hold a grudge.
On the other hand, I've mentioned before that around Trump they refer to the weather. How's the weather?
And it's turbulent.
And it will be turbulent, storms or clear skies. And it's like, well, what happened there? And you don't know. Sometimes it's just the sugar high. Get enough sugar into him, and he feels better.
Well, we've all worked for people, I suspect, who it's better to talk to them before lunch, or it's better to talk to them in the morning, not the evening.
Well, that's
slightly
alcohol.
different. That's alcohol. Yeah, this is sugar. He doesn't drink, but he eats McDonald's.
He does, but and they have this thing, this basket. He says, bring me the poison, and then this basket comes in with all kinds of these kind of 1950s, 1960s candies. Milky Ways, Hershey bar, all of this.
Oh, and he eats all that, does he? It's amazing he's not diabetic.
So then he takes a bunch of this and then take the poison away. And then he spends, really, crunches down on...
Right. It just reminds me of a boss I used to have that would text me very drunk late at night. And initially when I started working for them, you will notice I don't say whether it's a man or a woman, I would reply in earnest, and then I realized the next day they had no memory of sending me these kind of somewhat violent texts, actually. So we know that Pete Hegseth is obsessed about leakers, and he felt that he had a whole group of people around him at the Defense Department who leaked against him. Is he conscious of trying to find who leaked the most recent intelligence, saying that the bombing wasn't nearly as effective as they'd hoped?
What do you mean? He knows this leak investigation is going on.
Right, but is he very fired up about it? Because we heard that all he cared about was the leakers at the Defense Department at one point.
He's fired up about it because Trump is fired up about it. And he's fired up about it because he doesn't want to be blamed for it. I don't think there's anybody in this who's really has a moral position. We have to find the leakers. This is they've undermined, whatever you might typically blame leakers for. Leaking is a destructive act. But that's not what's really going on here. What's really going on here is Donald Trump is mad. The boss is mad. We have to find someone to blame. So it really cascades down. And that's what that's what the search for leakers is about. Now, one of the great leak searchers in this administration is Susie Wiles. How does she? And that's always a question. Susie Wiles, who's the chief of staff, and how does she maintain her position? One of the ways that she has done this, and she did this throughout the campaign, is commence search for leakers. So the fault is always in the hands of the leaker. We just have to identify the leaker. We will then find who to blame, and then we will solve the problem.
And how?
Let me just also point out they never, ever find the leaker.
Well, I was just going to say, what is the process of finding the leaker? And also, what I'm very mindful of is what you said, is that we have to pay attention to actually that the story is here that the bombing was not as successful as they'd expected or told us. It's not actually about searching for the leaker. That's just pushing the narrative on. It's taking the narrative away from the fact they told us it was a 100% successful mission, when in fact it wasn't.
Now, what's going to happen, and this is important, is he's going to double down on this. It's not going to be 100% successful, it may be 200% successful, 300% successful.
Right.
So we will be in this strange, and this often happens in any war situation. Nobody knows what's happening. Nobody knows what is the body count. And this is going to be, we're now going to enter the world of conflicting, radically conflicting, 180 degrees conflicting narratives. We've obliterated the Iranian nuclear threat. No, actually, we've just forestalled it for a couple of weeks. I mean, this is can you get more diametric in the analysis? And Trump will double down. He will insist. He is absolutely right. His reality is total, and anybody who suggests otherwise is a traitor.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to address a couple of comments from people. We've had thousands of comments. We get thousands of comments after the podcast. One of them is your pronunciation of the word nuclear.
All my life. I'm from New Jersey.
What does that mean? You just, because people don't like the fact that you give it, I think, 3 syllables.
It's the way we say it in New Jersey.
Okay, it's New Jersey dialogue. One of the other points that people raise is that we treat this as if it's a soap opera. And of course, it's very serious. We know it's very serious. But are we treating it as a soap opera? I mean, I like to think of it as a character study, that actually what I like talking to you about is, and what I find illuminating about how you think about Trump, having spent a lot of time with him and the people around him, is that he's just a man at the center of all this. He's just a man.
Government is traditionally, in the way we understand it, and the way it probably should be, is a story of institutions and process. One of the things that Trump has done, one of the breaks, the historical breaks, is that he's made it all about single individuals, and so therefore personality becomes as powerful as ideology. And I think that's, I mean, certainly in all of my coverage of the Trump political career, this is what I've been trying to illuminate. That it is it is all about the mercurial whims, the weather of vested in one man.
Yeah, I remember Andrew Card, the chief of staff to George W. Bush, saying his job was to make sure the president was never tired, never hungry, never lonely, and never angry. And his entire job, and you don't think of George W. Bush as sort of like that, but Andrew Card said literally that was his job, to make sure the president was never in that moment.
Right, and that's an older form of government, of American government, and the good form, to try to take the emphasis off of one person's whims, one person's impulses. Trump has unleashed that. I mean, it is all about, and he would cop to that. It's all about what I want.
He's thrilled about that, yes. Right? He's absolutely thrilled about that. I mean, he talks about he's the most important person in the world. He's running the world. He took it from, I think of Trump 1 as being essentially about America, and Trump 2 is about, he's gone global. It's the second season and it's global.
No, it's who do you take advice from? Well, no one. Me is what he says again and again and again, proudly.
Right, that his instincts, his judgment. He doesn't need to read intelligence briefings.
It is truly, at a level that I don't think we've even begun to comprehend, a government of one.
A government of one. And it's a real estate guy from Queens.
No, it's a reality television star.
A reality television, yeah.
It's never a very good real estate guy.
Right, that's absolutely right. Michael Wolff, thank you once more for illuminating whatever it is we are living through right now.
See you soon.
I love talking to Michael because I think he has a different perspective on how to cover politics. And it is now all about the personality of one man who, as he points out, was a very successful reality television producer. I sometimes think we're all still auditioning for a role in the show belonging to Donald Trump. And it reminds me a little bit of growing up in England, where our history lessons were all about the monarchs and the kings and the queens that had ruled England. And sometimes they were benevolent monarchs, and sometimes they were positively draconian. And it feels like somehow, despite the fact this is an enormous democracy, we're all in thrall to the ego of one man. And that's why I like Michael's analysis so much. And I know you do too, because you tell us in the comments, which I find incredibly energizing, interesting. We try and read all of them, even when there are thousands. So please keep them coming. We've addressed your concern about Michael's pronunciation of the word nuclear, which he claims is a New Jersey issue. Who knows? What do I know? I've barely been to New Jersey. Anyway, thank you for joining us if you have been. Please feel free to subscribe to this podcast. Share it with your friends, because we really are trying to have a different perspective and cover politics in a slightly different way than the way other people cover it. Feel free to subscribe to The Daily Beast. We are independent media, so we love your support. And we will also keep you up to date minute by minute with what's rolling out. Don't forget to be Beast. And this podcast was produced by Devon Rogerino, Anna von Ursen, and it was edited by Jesse Millward.